Welcome, everyone. We are pleased to present the presentation for the Sarah Jandrucko Academy for Early Learners to you today. My name is Michael Morrow. I am a project architect with Huckabee, and we also have two distinguished guests with us here today. The first is Holly Teague.
Hi, I'm Holly, consultant now with Huckabee, but former educator in Mansfield ISD.
And the second is Christy Cobb.
Hi, I'm Christy. I am the Director of Early Literacy for Mansfield ISD and also opened the Jandrucko Academy as the principal.
This is a brief little introduction for the project that we'll be discussing today. It is the Sarah K. Jandrucko Academy for Early Learners. It is in Mansfield ISD on the north side in Arlington. This is a pre-K center, one like you've never seen before, one that is truly changing the face of early literacy for the nation. And quick synopsis for this project: it's about 53,000 square feet. It houses a little over 300 students, and at the time was a $16 million project completed in December of 2018. As you can see, this is the site plan overlaid next to the existing intermediate school. It's a very straightforward layout with the main entrance right in the center of the building with equal spacing of the rest of the campus throughout. You have your parent drop off in the front with staff parking and guest parking readily available to the main entrance, as well as the bus parking and bus loop around the backside to help separate those groups as they come into the space. You can start to see the layout of the building. You see the same shape starting to repeat itself, and we'll get into that a little bit further throughout the tour. But what that does is allow the building to be designed and built efficiently, while then allowing the experiences and the learning that goes on to really speak for itself within this space. And here's a little bit more in-depth look at that building. As you can see, the main entrance right there in the center on the bottom with the reception and a parent room right as you come off. There's the main corridor heading north with admin flanking either side. So a real condensed, but also almost a mirror image on both sides of this campus. And the intentionality behind that was, these are young children. This is a pre-K center. So trying to make this as straightforward and as intuitive as possible really led into the design. And what you'll see when we actually do the tour is the wayfinding and the graphics that were built into this, and just the branding throughout this campus. As you can see, there's 4 different pod areas: navigation, interaction, investigation, and exploration. And it's the same layout, the same floor plan, mirrored and copied throughout to keep things real simple. But once you get into this, you'll see how the team that was constructed really took this to the next level. One thing you may notice is the activity room. That is a storm shelter, which is required, but the way it was utilized in this campus really makes the most of that space for as limited as it can be for such a young age group.
As most of you probably know, in the world of education, we don't just build really cool buildings for the sake of building really cool buildings. Everything that we do is for the sake of student learning and instruction. And so one of the things that we did, and we're going to just spend a quick moment on this, is we reviewed all of the research for early childhood education to make sure that there was intentionality in each of the things that we were providing for students within the building. So you'll see some research from Dr. Heckman that talks about the economic return for early childhood. You'll see lots and lots about the importance of early learning, lots about prior knowledge, background knowledge, and then that number at the bottom, that 30 million, that stands for the 30 million word gap between students that come from low socioeconomic homes versus students that don't. And so in the world of pre-K, we know that there were lots and lots of things that we had to address in terms of vocabulary, language development, and providing experiences that would lead to the understanding of background knowledge as students move further in their academic career. One of the things that we wanted to highlight, and it's not on that full research slide, is a study that's known as the baseball study. And it was done years ago. And basically, what that study tells us is that the importance of background knowledge for student comprehension in terms of literacy is just as critical as the explicit instruction on decoding and phonics. And so within MISD, we've kind of coined a phrase that we refer to as conceptual packaging. Many of you might see rooms and think, oh, that's a fun themed room or different things like that. And on the surface, it may look like a theme, but when you really begin to peel back the layers, it's much more than that, which is why we talk about it as conceptual packaging, meaning that all learning is taking place and is aligned with the background knowledge of the experience that students are in, to ensure that they're getting basically the explicit pre-K standards and instruction that's required, while also getting the experience to build that background knowledge. Here on this screen, you'll see 3 students that are in the process of what we call learning using conceptual packaging. And so underneath each one of the students, you'll see the pre-K standard that is aligned with what they're doing. And those are things that you would see in a traditional classroom. What makes the Academy different is that all 3 of these students are in space, and all of their activities are grounded in the background knowledge that comes with being in space for 2 weeks. So instead of the student that's there with the light bright table, instead of him just creating patterns, he's actually creating patterns that are aligned with items that are in space and vocabulary terms that have to do with space.
Red, what? What is that called?
A pattern.
That's a pattern, okay. What letter is this that you made a pattern of? Duh.
D.
Excellent.
The little girl with the that is counting, she's actually counting asteroids and using the terminology that goes along with that room.
Venus is eating the asteroids. Let me see. How many asteroids did Venus eat? Line them up. Let me see. Five. Can you find me the number of what you just... What number do you have?
5.
Good job.
And then you can see over to the right, there are students inside the rocket ship, and they are working on syllables and onset and rhyme, but they're doing it with space words as they're flying to Mars from Mansfield, Texas.
If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. All right, we got it. Welcome aboard as you are on your mission heading to Mars. Where are you heading to? Mars. Excellent job. All right, I need you to tell me how many syllables are in Mars. Clap it out. Go. Mars. Ooh, let's try. Ooh, all right, I heard 2 and 1. All right, so let's try that again. I love it. Let's have a discussion about it.
So Mansfield ISD worked with Huckabee, and they've been working with Huckabee for quite a while, but it was a pretty important experience for both of us, doing something that neither one had done before and what we planned for with this Academy for Early Learners. One of the places we toured, we went to Corpus Christi to Region 2, and they have the Early Learning Scholars building, and it's for field trips. And we went and we saw what they were doing and the learning that was happening with 3- and 4-year-olds, and thought, you know, we can do this every single day. So again, packed our bags and got on and got to thinking and thought, you know what, we can do this, but it's the first time it's been done. We have to do it well. We have to plan everything out exactly like we wanted it to be, following the research that we knew was best practices for early learners. This shows kind of the progression that we took. We knew that we wanted pods. We first started with, you can see, with 6 pods. It later went to 4 pods. Where were we going to have a kitchen? Where were we going to have main spaces? Everything that we did, every choice that was made, the curriculum, how the building was built, what happens in the experiences was all very intentional for what our youngest learners needed. You can see here the dream team. We talked before about Mansfield and Huckabee. We brought in museum experts, exhibit concepts. We had furniture experts. We had to have furniture that fit and built for what we needed in that collaboration space for dining. The graphics were huge with wayfinding, and then again, everything was built around what was going to be in the curriculum.
All right, everybody, we are now going to do the virtual tour. This is the main entry to the campus, into the building. Here you can see the nice bright branding that we have, the colored coated hands, and you'll see that continued throughout the building with the wayfinding. So that's kind of the first little touch of that throughout here. And we'll go ahead and walk in. And here we are at the main reception, immediately being greeted with a nice bright entry, not a lot of natural light, and a nice playful area.
Okay, it was just intentionally designed, the kind of area that you can see right now, that light table, to occupy students and provide them some sort of engaging way to interact with the space while parents are registering or checking kids in and out.
The student is thought of from the very first touch. I mean, even before they're even enrolled in school, they're already getting a small experience of what this facility has to offer. And then as we walk down the main admin corridor, you can see it's nice and open. And
these, we wanted all learning and work to be on display. And so the offices here, you can see, are transparent. And so students can see what's going on in the office. We can see what's going on in the building. You can also begin to see the beginnings of wayfinding. I'll let Michael kind of talk through that.
Yeah, and so right as you're walking down this main corridor, imagine yourself being, a 3 or 4 year old student, and you look up and you can automatically see the color coding and the branding. And as we go through that door, you'll see right there, it goes into the ceiling with the subway lights, what looks like a subway line, and then immediately transfers to the bulkheads and the floor tiles, which then leads you into the different experiences and groupings of those pods of red, blue, green, yellow. So it's really not just, simplified for the students, but also for the staff as well, because if you have, a couple hundred students walking around, if they have their clip on the backpack that shows a green or a blue, you immediately know where they're supposed to be that week, because throughout this space, they're not in just a pod for that time for the whole semester. It's broken up into I believe 2-week periods.
Yes, it is. Thank you for bringing that up. So they are in each of those pods actually for 8 weeks, and in the experiences that are in the rooms for 2 weeks per room.
And so as the students enter in, you have the activity room, and this is a storm shelter, so it's always from the design aspect, when it's not a gym, what to do with it, especially for a pre-K center, is make it an activity room, make it an area where it's usable. I mean, the weather's not always nice, and this is also a great place where in the mornings the kids can gather and sit in their spaces. So before they go out to the pods, this is an area where they can all gather in the morning. And we can walk back out in the corridor. So yeah, if we head down this hallway, we'll head towards the investigation pod. As you can see, this is the green one, and there's obviously 4 different experiences here, but you can see where the wayfinding and the just the level of the graphics being at the students level, not everything up high. The kids are down low, the graphics are down low, so it's really intuitive for the user experience.
And one of the things that I don't know if I stated when we talked about the research was really just that these experiences were grouped together intentionally based on the K1 and 2 science and social studies standards. And so rooms were kind of grouped by the background knowledge and the experience that they were providing.
And this is the communal space within those, and each of the groups has this central area, obviously not only just to expand the classrooms out, but it allows visibility for the teachers to see the other students to help group teach, and more importantly, There's also the communal dining experience, which is just fascinating to watch.
So in our pre-K standards, we actually are responsible for teaching students about turn taking, portioning, all of those different things that you don't traditionally think of teaching explicitly in school, but we do in pre-K.
And for those of you that remember back from looking at the floor plan, you know, there was no cafeteria, there was no central dining area. Each of these groups have their own central area where it's a multi-use space. It's not just for dining, it's for play, it's for education, it's for many different areas. So here we're going into the vet clinic. This is one of the experiences. As you can see, there's plenty of different activities in here, but it's all, like Holly was saying, intentionally focused for a reason. Everything in here was for curriculum purposes.
Yes, so right there is a great example of dramatic play. You'll see the standards for dramatic play are included in each of the experiences. So here they are pretending to be vets, and they're working with this cute little Dalmatian puppy. Within each of the rooms, you have some sort of structure that allows for small group instruction. So now we're in Amazing Me. You'll see the 2 picnic tables. There is also always space that allows for physical play and activity, as well as dramatic play that we just talked about. And here's a group of students that are actually running around the track right there.
And you'll see throughout some of these, you know, there's a low-tech room and a high-tech style room. So some of these experiences, you know, utilize little to no technology, while others require a little bit more. And so it's very evenly spread throughout the building of utilizing both. So we're not relying heavily on just technology. There's many different other aspects that you can look at and utilize within that space.
Yes, and in here is the playground. Again, it's designed for imaginative play. So you've got your little pirate ship, there's a castle in the back, a train, and several other features that the students absolutely love spending time on.
And we'll head back down the corridor and go look at one of the other experiences. We'll look at a little bit more high-tech areas and a high-tech experience that is always a showstopper and everyone loves to go into, even when just doing normal tours. So one thing you can see while you're in this communal open space right here is on each side, there's 2 different kitchenette areas. There's a student side with a lower hand sink and lower casework, so they're able to utilize that. But there's also what would be the teacher side with the higher sinks, a milk cabinet, blockable storage. So you know it's utilized throughout both spectrums of the user groups. There's also a restroom within this space and storage and a breakout room if there needs to be a more quiet conversation to occur. So all within this pod, the way it's set up is basically those entry doors that you walk into can be shut, and that's its own little ecosystem that everyone can live in. And like Holly said, they're there for 8 weeks. Now, obviously they jump around to each one for 2 weeks, but you're getting kind of a self-sustaining area. There's also the outdoor play right outside of it, so it's not always inside. So here is one of the more high-tech rooms.
Space is obviously a favorite of students and adults alike. When students are in this room, that picture right there, they're actually interacting with one of the planets, and all of the planets are actually magnetic. And so students can put different words and phrases and activities on those, depending on what you're studying at the time. Inside of the rocket ship, there are lots of options for dramatic play as well as explicit instruction. There are the students getting ready to lift off into space. One of the things that you can't really see in some of these pictures is on the ceiling of this room, there's actually an area that is projectable right there. And so we have an upshoot projector where we project different letters, different numbers, and students identify letters as they are presented in the stars as constellations. You'll see the little astronaut uniforms over to the side. Right here is a life-size or giant light-bright table where we address, of course, upper and lowercase letters, patterning, all sorts of stuff there. The little teacher cabinet, I was just going to kind of point that out, that is in each of the rooms. And that is intentional because as Michael talked about earlier, they are switching rooms every 2 weeks. And so the teacher doesn't necessarily have a classroom that she owns for the year. And so there is a little workstation within each of the rooms.
Exactly. And then as we go across the hall, you'll see Wonderland right here, which is obviously the, just all the fairy tale stories. I mean, this is always a favorite of the kids and those that like to walk through just for the pure imagination of it. You can see the graphics as you work throughout the space. So if you look on that wall right there, every experience has a magnetic wall within the space, be it either on a specific graphic or on the glass. There's about the bottom 2.5, 3 feet is a writable magnetic surface. So there's a lot of usable tactile spaces that can be taken advantage of for the curriculum in many different ways. And here you obviously have your story time, where kids can have their interactive play with one another instead of just, the teacher always giving the lesson. There's a lot of interactive education going on with one another.
Absolutely. And everything that was placed in the rooms, again, was designed to align with the curriculum and also designed to be child friendly. So we know that students learn by doing, and they learn through hands-on experiences. So when they enter a room, there's not much that they can't touch or that is not safe for them to interact with.
Interaction is highly encouraged in these spaces.
My experience with this school and our play-based learning has been extraordinary. I've always taught bilingual and ELL learners, so what I've noticed is that they're able to pick up on vocabulary in a more personal and meaningful way. My students have learned vocabulary words that I never even would have imagined them. For example, we talked about the letter J, and we talked about a jester and how a jester is in the old times of kings and queens. So the vocabulary that's being used throughout the students discussing or having academic conversations are things that you could never even imagine, especially 4-year-olds to have that.
It has been absolutely amazing experience. The first thing that I realized is when we first came into this room how my behavioral issues have just absolutely dwindled. My lower students, they're picking up things faster than ever. Today I introduced 5 senses. Instantly, the kids grasped onto that idea and they just started sorting things by what type of sense they were using, and they were picking up and they're reading these sight words that are just on the walls that they could never ever do before.
My children are coming in contact with the amazing visuals, real life visuals, and some life-size animals. So that's been just amazing for them to get to see up close.
Funny story, we were sitting yesterday, we're reading a book, and so they had never heard the word machine or machinery, so we started to talk about that, and then one of them say, oh, those pieces are stabilizers. He was able to recall that just because we were actually using the vehicles, we were looking at the parts, and we were reading the story, so just everything comes to life, and they're able to experience that in a more meaningful way.
So I'm able to take what they want to do and explore it into literacy. I'm able to introduce all different types of fairy tales through puppet shows and getting the kids to help interact and talk about the emotions. So it brings in an emotional and social aspect as well, because we can relate ourselves to the different characters that we get to be. Taking the social and emotional to the next level, we're able to go out and help each other in our new centers. We're also able to help each other when we have different breakfasts and lunches. And so it's not just building a community, it's building a family. The life-size animals, they get to go in to look at the bear, and we have a life-size Komodo dragon where they get to sit on it and dress him up.
The parents, I've gotten a few emails saying my kids missed being up here and she didn't even want the weekend off, that she'd rather be up at school rather than back at home.
One of the things that we have had to face in the past was that our students would have attendance issues. Sometimes they wouldn't come to school, especially when they're little. Now our kids are so excited. They don't want to leave school. They can't wait. They ask me when it's time to go, do I see you tomorrow? Are we singing the see you tomorrow song. Like, they're very excited all the time.
What makes this completely different from any other classroom is the kids are empowered by their learning because it's absolutely everywhere.
This type of experience has helped them see more than any book could show them or movie. It's just been wonderful. I feel like these experiences have brought learning to life for them and have actually pushed them to a limit to where they weren't reaching before in a normal classroom experience.
This is a special school, and it's special because they're special, and they know that, and so they tell me, we get to come here because we're special. So it's really cute.
Located on the southwest side of downtown Atlanta lies the new home of the Tuskegee Airmen Global Academy, a pre-K through 5 elementary school serving approximately 800 kids on 10 acres of redeveloped land located within a sizable residential community. This 107,000 square foot multi-story facility has a primary focus on STEAM education to promote critical design thinking.
A new school is always a shot in the arm for the neighborhood, and to focus on, it's given the neighborhood something they can really be proud of. You know, it's something that does really honor the history of Tuskegee, and I think, you know, as we went through the design process, we made efforts to reach back and reach forward and kind of knit it all together, you know, in brick and mortar. And, you know, it's just something for the neighborhood to rally around and get excited about. Who doesn't like a new building, a new school?
At the outset of this project, our design team didn't need to look very hard to find inspiration to honor the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen, an incredible group of men who changed the course of history. Some of our initial conversations, as I recall, centered around how to create a walkable neighborhood school that was prominently visible to passers-by, but also create an opportunity for the community to see this in a prideful and joyful way. The previous school, which resided adjacent to this new site, was anything but that.
Tuskegee Airmen are black pilots, mechanics, and support people who, when our country declared war against Hitler, came forward and dispelled the biases and generalizations that because of the color of our skin we couldn't support our country in a technical area.
So at a high level, our challenge, as we saw it, was how do you represent attributes of people, strength, honor, courage, and valor in a dignified, meaningful way that promoted a sense of longevity and architectural permanence.
Something that a lot of people don't know is that initially this project started out as the renovation of an existing school building, the Connolly Elementary School building, which is still on site. It was built in 1973, and then it was added on to again in 1992, and then I think in 2001 it got new HVAC units and maybe some new flooring, trying to bring it up to standards. But basically what we were given was this concrete shell of a building and trying to fit the new program entirely within that.
I mean, I think that's kind of one of the unique things of APS, that we did spend that time and that effort kind of going through the design process, but at some point we kind of said, you know, this really, we're going to spend a lot of money and this still really isn't going to work for what we want, you know, what we want to do. So we need to kind of reach back and reach out to the powers that be and say, hey, this is what we really need to spend and what we really need to do to make a difference. Got to give APS credit for that.
When the decision was made to do a new build instead of renovating the old Connolly School, you know, the first thing we had to study was how do you do that on half of a site? Richland Road, which when we started the project, came halfway into the site in cul-de-sac, and that's where the bus turnaround was, and the entrance to the school, and then exited back onto Cascade. But given the fact that we were doing a new build and keeping the existing structure, we decided to go ahead and take Richland all the way through the property. That way we bisect it so the old school building could have its identity and the new one as well. It also gave us an opportunity to put the school up on West Haven, which is a more community-sided, or the community side of the site. So it had a lot of great opportunity with that.
We don't do a prototype school. A lot of the components of the school are prototype, but they're knit together in a very, unique way to fit into the neighborhood and to focus on what that school is really doing.
Design team had a lot of discussions early on about what the personality or the image of this building should be, because it was really kind of being pulled in two different directions. On the one hand, you had the school and community that were really excited about getting this new, modern, state-of-the-art school, especially after having, been in the 1973 building for a number of years. So you had that sort of aspect, that was begging for this to be a new, modern building. On the other hand, there's the history of the Tuskegee Airmen that the school, builds its foundation on or gets its inspiration from. So there's sort of a pull to do something more historic. Alva Hardy pushed really hard for us to take a look at Moton Field in Alabama, which is the National Historic Site, and try to take cues and even replicate some of the barrel vaulted hangars and buildings and brick buildings and things that were there as a historical sort of nod to Moton Field. And in the end, I think, what we came up with and what became sort of the final design was sort of a hybrid of both. We are using the corrugated metal and the, brick and block that you might find at Moton Field, but we're doing it in sort of a new, modern way that is not meant to look like an airplane by any means, but it does look sort of aeronautic. The wing shape of the roof structures, and then the exposed structure with the X bracing, which is a definite nod, back to sort of early aeronautic design. The idea being that this may not be an airplane, but it did kind of land right at the front door of this community. And one of the coolest features it was brought to us by our landscape architect, were sort of the runway patterns that we used in the sidewalks leading up to it, so that you really get the feel that you're getting into a machine that sort of holds all this STEM-based learning and all these exciting lab spaces.
And it's not there right now, but the space we build in the main lobby for the airplane to be placed at some point, which I hope will still happen. I mean, those are the things I really kind of love in the planning process. So, working with you guys and sitting down and going, look what we can do here with these. And, it doesn't take much for an idea to kind of take root and start running with it.
It was Alva and Jerry who came up with that idea at the very, very beginning when the plan started to take shape, and it was such a cool way to think about sharing all the history of the Tuskegee Airmen in 3 dimensions. really not just thinking that this lobby would be this 2D space that you could hang pictures on the wall and put things in display cases, but to actually hang this plane from the ceiling structure that the kids could see and interact with on a daily basis.
We spent a lot of time tweaking the layout of the various labs and art spaces around the collaboration zone on the second level. It was important to us that these spaces offer open, flexible opportunities for learning and discovery. Instead of isolating each classroom from the others with only hallway access, we incorporated a series of transparent overhead doors so that these smaller spaces can open up to become one big field of collective learning. The idea was that when all the doors are open, a student in art could fly their carefully engineered paper airplane through 2 labs and all the way out into the collaboration zone.
The ground floor and the second level have outdoor areas for classes. The second level in particular has an outdoor classroom. It's an area where, you're kind of swept up because the space is so high, and it gives you kind of this sense of altitude.
Something we concentrated on very, very early in the design process was the connection from indoor to outdoors. How do you learn inside and kind of flow outside? And that becomes so important with STEM learning and STEAM learning. And how do you sort of open a building up to the outside? And I think that's where the lab spaces in the building become so important. And the reason that they're kind of situated around that outdoor patio area is really not only to open them up to each other and allow that cross-disciplinary learning, but also open them up to the outside and have that flow from one space to the other.
Trying to find outdoor play space. Again, the outdoor lab idea was sort of brewing in the back of our heads as sort of this culmination of the STEM and STEAM programs. But finding a place for that would be protected on the site. These are little kids, and being able to sort of nestle that into a building design without it becoming just a complete courtyard or having it be up on a street somewhere was kind of a challenge. And the way that we looked at it was to try to get that area on the east side of the property where there was a big stanchion of trees separating it from the church property next door, and that seemed like a really nice, safe place to put sort of outdoor play space and outdoor lab space. And really, when you combine all those factors, the way you want to drive around the site, you don't want the sea of asphalt, and again, separating vehicles or cars and buses. That's really where the first generation of sort of this angular wing form for the building and plan, anyway, that's really where it came from.
The school has a fairly large online book collection, but they still wanted the shelving in the media center for physical books. They felt very strongly that creating kind of reading areas and places, not just in the media center, but also throughout the building, that kids could sit and read or sit and with a small group and have breakout classroom spaces as well, was really important. So the media center became the heart of the school just because of where it's situated in the building, but also kind of a primary gathering space for the school as well. And all the light in there is really nice, especially as you go down into the lower lobby. That kind of descent, to the cafeteria and the gymnasium spaces. There's this view that you get when you're descending the main level stair to the lower level, where you're actually looking straight outside and you're kind of looking over the tree line and looking over the rooftops. But that was an unexpected design surprise, a nice view that we weren't quite expecting.
So there are a lot of ways in which it does look, a large school. But I think the way APS has decided to use the school divides it up into smaller, manageable communities. Because it's winged shape, each of the wings on each floor is dedicated to a particular grade group. The way that they have chosen to use the school and the way we planned it lends itself to, community, their own space, their own place in the building. I was thinking that, goodness, I wished my school was like this when I was in elementary school. To me, it's an inspiring building and inspiring spaces in the building.
The Tuskegee Airmen have such a big story, and the school, since it's a namesake, really carries that story as well.
I think it's just really giving the neighborhood a shot in the arm, something to, to inspire, grow, and reach higher.
As I think back on the beginnings of this project, what we learned and how we articulated these ideas architecturally, one can't help but view the Tuskegee Airmen as some of our country's finest angels. I hope they, Atlanta Public Schools, and the thousands of students who will enjoy this new home for years to come are equally proud of what they see.
Welcome to the new Salish Coast Elementary School. It is an absolute pleasure to get to share this project with you today. This project is a successful result of a search for the spirit of place in a truly unique community. Let's introduce the people who will be touring you today. Voices you will hear include Loretta Sachs, who is a project leader from Integris Architecture, Cass Kincaid, our landscape architect, who was influential in shaping outdoor spaces that aligned with the district's place-based learning goals, and Lori Farr, our civil engineer, who guided us to many of the wonderful site solutions, including, as you will see, no parking lot in the front of the school. How cool is that? My name is Brian Carter with Integris Architecture. Located in the town of Port Townsend on the Olympic Peninsula of Washington State, Salish Coast Elementary School is the community's only elementary school, designed to accommodate up to 600 pre-K through 5th grade students. It sits on the same 11.5-acre site as the building it replaces, and was constructed while the former school remained occupied. Total construction cost, inclusive of substantial site and off-site requirements from the city, was about $30 million. Port Townsend is a special place, highly educated, eco-sensitive, and in many ways ruggedly pioneering in their commitment to community. Its natural setting really is unsurpassed, with all the richness and biodiversity offered in that special place where land and water converge. Sitting at the gateway to the southern parts of the Salish Sea, the town has a distinct sense of self, identifying both with their maritime roots and seeking also to deepen their understanding and connections to their indigenous heritage. Remote and relatively isolated, Port Townsend is accessible either by ferry service or by highway dependent on the Hood Canal Bridge. To feel the community's driven quest for sense of self is to understand the school district's commitment to place-based learning and their aspirations for deeply engaging community connections. As you can see from this video shot from an incoming ferry, Port Townsend is a collection of mostly smaller scale wooden brick buildings set along a hillside at the water's edge. None particularly majestic individually, yet taken as a whole, build an architectural vernacular that forms a backdrop to the city's maritime legacy. The new Salish Coast Elementary School responds to this wonderful community as a deceptively simple, predominantly single-story shed roof solution that engages its surroundings and provides a direct expression of the values of the community it serves.
We want to start the tour with a brief description of the project's pre-bond process. Port Townsend had failed to pass a bond previously in 2008, and before going out to its voters again, it was important for the district and its community to hire an architect to help create a vision that reflected all of their hopes, dreams, and goals for their students and for how a school can serve not only as a resource, but also be a catalyst that helps strengthen the health of an entire community. Before we were hired, the district had formed a steering committee that had been meeting and envisioning this new school for 2 years. They were a blend of leaders and educational partners from their maritime community. Along with the school district, the steering committee included master gardeners, the town librarian, members from local and state parks, bikeable and walkable communities advocates, healthcare representatives, and solar energy specialists, and even local chefs. As we go through the tour, you will see the built realization of 3 main goals anchoring the school's vision: meaningful, place-based collaborative learning environments, commitment to the school's engagement with its broader community, and recognition of the intimate relationship between the community and its natural setting. The steering committee was formed following the district's creation of their place-based learning program, which sought to engage their schools out in the community and bring the knowledge of their community inside of its schools. Through collaborative sessions with the committee, we co-created a vision for the school and its community for their pre-bond campaign, which was shared with voters and resulted in one of the highest bond approvals in the history of the state. And these committee members and many, many more were committed and active participants in the district's place-based maritime discovery program. Port Townsend is one of the few school districts in the nation, if not the only one, to tie place-based learning across all subjects and all grade levels, including their elementary, middle, and high schools. In addition to the steering committee, we also held visioning workshops with all of the district's kindergarten through grade 5 teachers, as well as with all kindergarten through 3rd grade students who would be the future inhabitants of the new school. Through the students' drawings, we saw their connection to the environment, their community, and with each other, and their many insights became inspiration points for the design of the new school. This aerial image shows you the existing school and site before the project began. It was named Grant Street Elementary School after the street it fronted to the east side. The size of the existing school limited the number of grades it could serve to preschool through 3rd grade, with the main building housing kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grades, and portables to the north and south housing preschool and 3rd grade. It was important to the committee that the new school design embrace their place-based outdoor learning program and create a scheme that was centered around an outdoor learning courtyard. In addition, the design should maximize use of the entire site to support learning and their educational programs. A unique feature of the overall site design is the lack of parking lots, replaced instead by play space and gardens that grow food served during lunch as part of the district's farm-to-school program. Also important to the community were their sustainability goals and the ability for the new school to be net zero ready. As the project developed, the siting of the building was fine-tuned to maximize space for future PVs that was outside of the shadow line created by the tall existing fir trees along the southern edge of the site. To orient you to the site plan, Discovery Road runs along the top of the site, and when the video footage begins by driving to the school along Discovery, please take note of the features on the right. Not only is there a pullout for buses along the road instead of a bus turnaround on the site, but there is also a bike path that is part of the city's non-motorized transportation plan, reflecting Port Townsend's focus on being a bikeable and walkable community. The layout of the new school navigates an existing 14-foot slope. On the upper portion of the site, clusters of one-story classrooms, shown in blue, are arranged around the outdoor learning courtyard, and they are bridged together by the library, shown in purple, to the east, and by an open-air mudroom to the west. On the lower level, shared community spaces like the dining commons, its adjacent teaching kitchen and community room, and a separate gymnasium connect the new school through plazas, bioswales, and prominently placed gardens to Grant Street, which continues to serve as the school's main point of arrival. This is an overview of the tour we would like to take you on today. On the right-hand side, you'll see location number 1, where we will take you from the street-side parking into the school reception area, and then out into the outdoor learning courtyard, traveling back to the mudroom on the west side, and then into a classroom cluster to talk about Salish Coast's collaborative, flexible learning environments. We will then look at the school's covered areas that provides all-weather outdoor learning, go back inside into the hall and enter the library, and then from the library go to the commons, teaching kitchen, and garden. After that, we will visit the school gym and look at its expansive areas for outdoor play. We are now traveling along Discovery. Note the bike path on the right, as well as the long street-side pullout area for buses. The bus pullout also incorporates a stop for the city bus. After we turn onto Grant Street, we are greeted by the school garden. Grant Street had long been a one-way street with street-side parking on both sides, and through partnership with the city, we were able to keep parking along the street and off the main school site. When students approach the school, they will be walking alongside bioswales, the school garden, or their play areas. Since the beginning of the 2020 school year, Salish Coast has been open during COVID, with students learning both on-site and at home in hybrid model. The yellow and blue squares you see along the walkway cue the students during their morning health check, which includes going into the gym for a temperature reading before heading to their cubbies and classrooms. Visitors reach the school reception area by going up a ramp or flight of stairs that also visually and physically connects them to the school's central outdoor learning courtyard. The reception desk is located so staff have supervision over 2 secure entrance points, which come from either the bus drop-off along Discovery or from the stairs and ramp off the central courtyard. As we swing around the reception area, we would like to focus on this open area that is incorporated into the entrance off the courtyard. It is a new program space for the district that was very important to them to be included in the new school design. It is their Family Resource Center, seen here in the recess off to the right. Port Townsend has many students and families in need, and the district feels connected with all of them. They know sometimes just getting your child to school can be a victory in and of itself, especially for families who may be experiencing homelessness or other challenges like food scarcity. The experience of entering a school for the first time can also feel very intimidating for both the students and their family members. The open design of the Family Resource Center is intended to feel like a warm, welcoming living room, with access to information and resources that help support families. Important program elements included a bulletin board for sharing information, as well as a coffee bar and storage for supplies. Even the school conference room was strategically located to be connected to this area, so it can also support visiting services like a mobile dentist or getting flu shots. The space also serves as the school reception waiting area where families can fill out forms or connect with members of the staff. So next on our tour, we're going to leave the reception area and walk you through the outdoor learning courtyard. We will head west to the mudroom, which is at the end of the courtyard, and see the site's forest edge beyond. Then we will re-enter the school and look at and discuss its flexible learning environments, designed to support not only the district's place-based, project-based learning, but also help its teachers engage in collaborative, team-based teaching practices.
Come out to the courtyard with me, your landscape architect. You can see the great ornamental grasses that we have in there, real simple plants that kids can interact with. To your left is the community entry up into the courtyard. And you can see the fencing that separates the kids from that public entry. A view down through the courtyard and all the windows that view out into that courtyard. It's really great watching the kids line up and queue. And every single time I've been out there, you can watch the kids put their hands out and run it by those grasses. So the circulation through the courtyard was really meant to help with some offloading of the busyness in the halls, especially when kids are heading out to play. They can head either to this end or the opposite end to get to the playground. Out at this end, you can see this wonderful forest. They have more really great fencing opportunities for art. They do sit-spot exercises up in those forest stands. And you're in the mudroom right now that also functions as another covered play and covered learning space. And Loretta will bring you back inside.
So right after the school bond passed and we were getting ready to dive deeper into the design of the new school, Superintendent Engel called the design team together and asked us to take a brief pause. He recognized from being part of previous school construction projects the importance of teacher participation and teacher buy-in when designing and building a new school. He also recognized the importance of building in flexibility when designing learning spaces. Salish Coast was also designed during an interesting time in Washington state, when the state legislature had just mandated schools to implement class size reductions for all K through 3 grade levels. So a school's overall student population remains the same, but the number of teachers engaged with those students increases. And together with the district, we asked this question: does the size of your school building need to grow when the number of students it serves is not changing and its teachers are engaged in team teaching? You see, teachers at the existing Grant Street Elementary School were already exploring ideas about collaborative teaching practices. In fact, 2 classrooms at the existing school had been practicing team teaching with 50 multi-age, multi-grade students for years, and others were practicing team teaching and looping. So this question led to an exploration of really looking into highly flexible learning blocks and how teachers can work together within them. This exploration began with Superintendent Engel inviting our team to attend 2 professional development workshops with all of their grade K through 5 teachers. During these workshops, we listened while the teachers collaborated with each other in an effort to describe the culture and relationships in a school where learners thrive. And we helped them explore ways that a school's building, its site, and its connection with its community could create a learning landscape for every student. First with district leadership, and then in smaller groups with their grade level teacher leaders, we began looking at these larger learning blocks that could be opened up or broken down into multiple learning zones. We explored different shapes that made up the larger learning block, combining T, L, and U-shaped spaces that challenged how many different size groupings of teachers and students it could serve. In the final design, the basic learning environment block is 3,600 square feet, which can accommodate 6 teachers with 17 students each per the new Washington State reduced class size requirement, or it can accommodate 4 teachers with 25 students each. And through the use of multiple lengths of operable walls located at different places throughout the learning block, we were able to create a variety of scale of learning environments, each that can have their own learning subzones within them, as multiple teachers work with students and group and regroup them throughout the school day and school year. This strategy has already proven valuable during COVID. While the majority of Salish's students are at the school 2 days a week in hybrid model, some families have elected for all online learning. The school is able to enlarge classrooms to physically distance students while still providing carpet meeting areas and breakout learning corners, and create smaller classrooms for teachers supporting only online learners. Finally, we also made sure that building elements such as classroom doors and windows were placed so that if the district decides down the road that they want to have more traditional individual 900 square foot classrooms, that they have the ability to do so. So what you are seeing now is a couple of those learning environments opened up to each other. It was important to integrate a swing door into the operable walls so that even when teachers have the operable walls closed, There is easy connection for collaboration between the learning environments. Next on the tour, we want to focus again on the importance of the outdoor learning courtyard and outside place-based learning at Salish Coast. And as the design developed, always making sure that wherever students and staff are inside the building, that they have physical and visual connections to the outside, and in particular, easy and frequent access into the courtyard. We will then walk down the hall and enter the library, which bridges between views into the courtyard and out into the city of Port Townsend and beyond. In this classroom, you can see a subzone created by a teacher and its visual connection to activity in the courtyard. And as we exit the classroom, there is nearby access to the courtyard and its multiple covered outdoor learning environments.
Here we are heading back out to the courtyard. You can see across the way one of the covered learning outdoor spaces, room for some tables and chairs. Great teaching wall is there on the opposite side. Good visibility to the interior classroom, so teachers can feel pretty secure about letting kids go out for some small team teaching and group work. And they can feel secure in this courtyard also because it's fenced at both ends, so it's secure. No one's walking through there. Nice connectivity across the way, and then we provided this central walkway down through the middle. There's some hose bibs, and we have a rolling sink that can go back and forth between the classrooms as needed. So this is really science, more science, messy, project-based learning. All the gardens, again, are down in front. So this is just a real simple plant palette, make connections work, and keep visibility as a priority.
The courtyard has been an important space during COVID. The district even brought in additional tents, so more students can be learning outside during this time. As we move back inside, we would like to now focus on the character and connections within the school's hallways, including aligning classroom windows and entrances with views to outside. These also provide places to display student work and provide positive messages reflecting the school's culture. And each learning block includes student restrooms, which by deciding not to include any urinals in the school, are able to be gender neutral. The school also decided to locate student cubbies in the hallway to help free up wall space inside the classrooms for teaching and display. Stacking the cubbies at different heights provide places for students and teachers to sit, whether for a quick conversation or for some one-on-one learning support. The low open wood structure provides warmth while also serving as a reflection of the region's timber industry. We are now about to enter the school library. The library, combined with the courtyard, serves as the heart of the school. It is also an important resource after school, with the ability to serve as a local branch of the Port Townsend Town Library. Located along Grant Street, the library functions as a bridge between shared community spaces like the gym and the commons, and between the learning environments, with views to both the outdoor learning courtyard to the west and out towards the city to the east. Low, relocatable book shelving also serves as seating alongside these views, and the inclusion of a sink helps support project-based or makerspace learning activities. We will next leave the library and continue our tour down into the dining commons with its adjacent scratch cooking central kitchen for the district. From the dining commons, we will visit what is referred to as the Eagle Studio, which is the school's flexible teaching kitchen and community space, which can also function as a garden or art classroom. We will then walk out to the garden area, prominently located near the intersection of Grant Street and Discovery. We exit the library through its adjacent breakout area named the Eagle's Nest. From here, you could go straight and turn left back into the reception area, or immediately turn right and head down into the dining commons. In the existing Grant Street Elementary School, students ate breakfast in a hallway and lunch inside their classrooms. Unable to use their gym space as a lunchroom and still provide enough PE sessions for all of their students. So it was important to the school to provide separate dining and PE spaces with the ability of the commons to serve as a secondary PE space if needed. The dining commons and its kitchen were strategically located near the garden, which along with school gardens and orchards at their middle and high schools are part of the district's farm-to-school lunch program. Because half of the district's students now attend Salish Coast, the central kitchen, designed for fresh scratch cooking, was relocated to the new school. Even during COVID, the school continues to receive fresh ingredients from their gardens and local farmers and provide cold-bagged, healthy lunches to students. Large windows with views to the school garden, bioswales, and play areas connect the dining commons to the outside and welcome the community to share in its use as an after-school meeting space. The Eagle Studio is the school's multi-use teaching kitchen and community room. Here, students can clean and prep vegetables they planted in the school garden, or their families can take cooking classes to help bring healthy habits the students learn at school into their homes. The school has even explored using the space as part of an intergenerational program, bringing the community's seniors into the school to provide connections with their students. We will now leave the Eagle Studio and head out to see the school garden.
As was indicated previously, one of our greatest victories on this project was no on-site parking. Beyond the service and garden access that you can see off to the left and the fire lane access around the site, when entering or exiting the school, it is not through parking lots, but through the bioretention areas, across the play fields or playgrounds, or through this beautiful learning garden planted by the students. Through a collaborative effort with the city and community, the majority of the parking is within the public right-of-way, with student drop-off and pickup along the Grant Street frontage, and the school bus loading and unloading in a shared facility with Jefferson County Transit along Discovery Road. There is a small dedicated teacher lot across Grant Street, and we've negotiated a share agreement with the adjacent church for overflow event parking.
This is such an amazing garden space to be in and to watch it grow and watch the students take care of it. For the final segment of our tour, we will leave the garden and move along the bioswales in front of the school, briefly go back inside to visit the school gymnasium and stage, then come back outside again to visit the play spaces that extend from the southeast corner of the site all along its southern edge, incorporating hardscape play areas and a play field, as well as both hillside and nature play areas.
As we walk out of the garden, I want to point out the significant number of bike racks. Have you seen this many bike racks at an elementary school before? The City of Port Townsend is a walkable, bikeable community, and as part of this project, we extended the city bike path and sidewalk along the entire Discovery Road frontage adjacent to the bus loading and unloading area. Stormwater for the majority of the project site was mitigated by bioretention infiltration facilities that you can see here, as well as by an 85-foot long, 15-foot wide, 10-foot deep infiltration vault along the Grant Street road frontage.
We have now entered the school gymnasium, which includes a climbing wall that was salvaged and reinstalled from the previous school's gym. You will also notice at its far end the proscenium opening for the school's combined music classroom and stage. The skylit gym also includes high windows that bring in additional daylight and connect views into the gym from the upper hallway that leads to the school library. The gym is located at the southeast corner of the school to acoustically isolate it from the learning environments, as well as to place it along Grant Street for easy community use outside of school hours. It is also adjacent to the school's play areas, which, along with the commons, help provide additional places for movement and PE as the school grows in its student population over the years.
Here's the 3D model of the school and its site. You can see how the school is nestled in amongst the trees above and flows down toward the community shared spaces in the front to Grant Street. Grant Street was already a one-way road with angle parking, so we continued that along the whole frontage for the new school. The one-way traffic makes it much safer for pedestrians and provides great visitor parking and drop-off, and you know exactly where the entry is for this school. The production garden is shown at the upper right corner of the site model, and the garden and its food program provides food security for the community and is a point of pride. It made sense to put it on display right up front. The Learning Garden is immediately adjacent and can provide mentoring opportunities in the future. High school students will be working in that production garden right next to elementary age kids. The Learning Garden is also supported by a garden educator who's tied into their curriculum. Kids used to have to cross the street to get to the garden. Now it's outside the commons and visible every single day. Further down along the frontage is paved play, then the sports field, and then the fire lane that takes you up the slope to the back of the site next to the forest. Beyond and behind the trees, you can just see where the bus drop-off is on Discovery. Here's again that view across the bioretention areas to the library. The paved play right next to it, great visibility from the street and easy to get to. The play equipment, we spent a lot of time with the teachers and vendors maximizing play opportunity and a good mix of physical developmental goals. And the slope was made part of the play with a grassy rolling hill and hill slide. Even the fire lane feels more like a pathway as it winds along the edge of the forest, the rocks and logs, all from the site. And in the future, this will be a grove of trees.
That concludes our tour of Salish Coast Elementary School in Port Townsend, Washington. We hope you enjoyed visiting and learning about this very special school, its district, and its maritime community. Thank you for listening and for watching.